Hey guys, Casual Coaster Enthusiast back. We're doing the rebuild of the blueprints. Last time we were in, I have the park still up. We were doing Tidal Roll, the S&SL Loco. This time we are doing just kind of scrolling through the blueprints earlier just to see what some of them looked like. But this time we're doing Spinster, the sort of Zamperla or Reverchon spinning wild mouse. So I will get that blueprint in the park, and then we can walk through sort of the layout. I think, as with the last one where we basically recreated the El Loco layout, I think for this we want to do kind of the standard spinning wild mouse layout, but I'll add the blueprint and we can take a look and see if there's anything unique that one wants to add. Alright, so we have the blueprint for Spinster added in, and you can see it's a really goofy design. It has the sort of standard wild mouse switchback hairpin turns, but then you get these weird, I don't even know how to describe these turns. It's kind of all over the place. So I'll come back in a little bit. We can ride the blueprint. I'll get a POV of that. But yeah, I think for this we just want to do more of kind of a standard wild mouse layout. Let's catch the POV and I'll come back with that. Alright, so this is normally the part where I would do the overview, but there's not really a lot to talk about. With this Alright, so I've gone ahead, added the station, and it took me a little while to get it right, but I have a separate loading and unloading station. So I am going to go ahead and start building. that. We'll see. Quite sure. Oh. These things usually aren't very large. Actually, I may end up lowering this just a little bit. Get it. There we go. So I've built up the lift hill. I'm going to do the first series of switchbacks. Once I finish that, we can so since last episode, I've kind of wanted to start doing installments. Now for this, I am going to need to turn off angle snapping just a little bit, but I want to, on camera, build in sections. So last one before the cut, I built the lift hill, and like I was saying, this time we'll do the first level of switchbacks, probably up to the first drop, and we'll go from there. walks off. Now I think we can turn the ankle snap back on. Oh. This is much more compact than I was thinking it was going to be. So, maybe when I'm done, I'll go back and redo the station, because I think this is a reasonable footprint for the ride. But for now, I'm going to turn the ankle snap back on, and I'll come back on camera to do the first drop, and yeah, then we'll build the turnaround and go from there. Alright, so I have ankle snap back on. These drops generally aren't very steep. I think we can do about a 33-degree drop if we could. Won't let you go beyond 40 degrees. Well, that answers that then. But I think if we do probably a bit too drawn out, so if we do that. So we are going to the inside, that's good. It does feel weird. I think we're okay sticking with 30.5 degrees, or 33. So I'm going to that'll be that for, I'll call this update here, and I'll get set up to do the lower levels, and I think I do want to go back and change the station setup, so I'll go ahead and do that and get set up for the lower level of switchbacks, and I think we can, and then we can go ahead, take a ride. One thing I will say, I didn't do it here, but I know these kinds of coasters often have an awkward little kink in the track, just a very slight turn. On this second set of switchback, this hill that I just built, I'm not going to do that, but that is kind of the primary difference, I think, between the real versions of these coasters and the attempt at a recreation that I'm doing. So, like I said, I'll come back when I have the station setup changed, and I'm ready to start building the end of the ride. Okay, so I'm back. I did go and change the setup of the station so it's loading and unloading instead of having two separate ones. I do have the angle snap turned off, and I did start building the final brake run. That may change. We'll have to see, because we're already a little bit low, so I don't know how it's going to connect up. And pacing wise, I don't know if we're going to have enough speed. We may want to make the final brake run a little bit shallower, but we'll see. So I'm just placing the block section here, unlocking the car spin, and I think for that we can probably turn off the catwalks. I think if we set this up right, this should be the final, yeah, this should be we should be set up to, I am going to need to tweak the brake run and the turn back into the station, so I will do that off camera, and I'll come back to finish up the ride. Alright, so while I was off camera, I moved the unlock train spin, or unlock car spin. I moved that to this brake run here. What that lets us do is tighten this section up. It moves it forward a little bit, so we'll see how that works out. Just because it felt like where I had it after the final mid-course brake run, here. That felt like it was too close to the end, and there was too little spinning. I'm a little bit rusty on the model, so maybe that's the more realistic realistic location for that. Let me know down in the comments if you do know where that would be placed, but I felt like you get a little more chance to spin, which is kind of the whole point of the ride if we moved it back, so that's what I did. And now I'm just finishing up the ride. So if we build that, and I can lock the spinning here, is that I am gonna tweak that a little bit just to give it more of a continuous curve. Just a unit. There we go. Fine. So I'm going to go off camera. Well, typically I would smooth these rides. I don't know that I necessarily need to for this, so I think I'm going to hold off on smoothing. Well, I'll go off camera. I'll do a POV and see whether or not it needs to be smoothed. But I think for this one maybe I won't. As of right now, we'll see. And then I'll come back and we can ride this thing. I'll see you in a little bit. I am back. I did ride off camera. I think it's a reasonably good approximation of the actual spinning wild mouse model. So it's not perfect. I think there's some areas that could be refined. I'm not necessarily going to do that for this video, but I think it's a reasonable approximation. So let's hop on, and I'll come back for the POV. that's gonna just about do it for this episode. In the next one, we will be building Screwvad. This one's going to be an RMC, so this is going to be an interesting one. But let me know in the comments how you think my rebuild of Spinster turned out, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.